Thank you. All right, thanks very much. Yeah, my name is Larene. I'm a developer at ThoughtWorks, and I've been playing around in React Native for the last about 6 months, making some cool apps. React Native is very, very fun. And I wanted to talk to you about how easy it is to make accessible and inclusive apps using React Native. They've made it really, really easy. So, a famous person once said, the power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone is an essential aspect. The person who said this is a pretty famous person, Tim Berners-Lee. You may have heard of him. Kind of invented the internet. Little did he know that the power of the web is largely in pictures of videos of cats. But back to accessibility. Accessibility is the extent to which a product or service is usable by everyone, regardless of age, ability, or status in life. In our world, those products are software and web. And accessibility and the concept of universal design go hand in hand. Universal design is largely a similar concept, except it's making something accessible, usable, and pretty. So why is accessibility important? I think I'll throw that one out to the audience. Anyone got a reason? Sorry? Inclusiveness, yes. Anybody else? It's the law. It's the law. Yes. A little bit of it is don't get sued. But yeah, that's right. Access to information is equal access to opportunity and really, really important to fighting inequality. And it's the law. So, myth. Accessibility is a lot of extra work to cater for a small percentage of users. True or false? False? True? It's okay. Well, kinda. So over the last decade or two, the internet was still trying to work out what it wanted to be when it grew up. It was kind of like an angsty teenager. There's a picture of an angsty teenage emperor penguin on the, on the screen. And things got a bit out of hand when they were trying to express all this information with all the fancy CSS, multi-tiered menus, styling, divs and span, soup all over the place, and don't even get me started on Flash animations. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and computer hardware are all changing and evolving really, really quickly, and trying to keep up with each other at the same time. And things got a little unstable. And on top of that, trying to retrofit accessibility, which was usually the case, doing accessibility after the fact, with ARIA labels and tags and JavaScript sorcery, was indeed quite arduous. Has anyone heard of the Internet Explorer attacks? Yeah, a few people. So on a previous project, I would be implementing a feature on a website. It'd be working in Chrome, Safari, Firefox, all the mobile browsers, and then there was Internet Explorer 9. And that would blow out my card by another week. And so that is when building accessibility in from the beginning was really, really important. In the last few years, the internet has kind of settled down, matured a little bit. We now strive for simple, clean interfaces and that provide the best user experience. And semantic HTML, HTML5, means that we can do it with even less code, so our code is even cleaner. Some of the best websites now actually look like they're from 1995. That's hackernews.com in case you didn't know. Anyway, back to accessibility. So something that I'm really, really excited about is a universal UI framework. So back to that universal design concept. And it seems like React Native looks like it's taking a step in the right direction. But I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later. So a quick audience survey. Who has been doing a bit of work in React Native? Who's keen to learn? And who's a mobile developer that hasn't done any React Native? Okay, cool. Bit of a diverse mix. Awesome. There's not too much to, well, I'll get to the code later. We'll keep talking about accessibility. So, fact. Building software with accessibility in mind creates a better experience for who? Everyone. Yes, everyone, right off the bat. Including developers. So this principle is also commonly known as the curb cut effect. So curbs, originally we cut a curb or a sidewalk, we cut a ramp into a curb or a sidewalk, which originally was designed for wheelchair users. But actually, it also meant that parents in prams, people with luggage, cyclists, could also use the curb cut or the ramp from the pathway to the road. Basically, designing with accessibility in mind was beneficial to everybody. And an example of an electronic curb cut effect is subtitles. Subtitles were originally designed for those who couldn't hear movies very well in mind. But now it's when you forget your headphones on the train, or if you're learning a second language or third language, or if you just want to focus and really, really get into that course content. If your course is subtitled, it's known to be very, very helpful and beneficial. So the curb cut effect is really where universal design and universal frameworks kind of meets halfway with assistive technology. This is the sweet spot where we've achieved accessibility to the greatest extent. And when I say assistive technology, I mean technology that helps a person to complete a task better than they would without it. This could include anything, such as glasses, contacts, hearing aids, strollers, screen readers, even keyboards and mice. And this should be, this sweet spot between universal design and assistive technology should be where we aim for with all our products. And that's why I'm really, really excited about React Native being the potential universal UI platform. And one last bonus, when you're creating apps with accessibility in mind, you get to do a lot of good for free. I forgot to add SEO in there as well. So I originally did a version of this talk at LastConf, which was less technical, so I wanted to squeeze in a bit more live coding time. So usually at my last talk, I had a lot of resources that I was showing everyone and explaining through what the good of them were, but to cut time, I've pre-written a Medium article that I will now tweet a link to live. I've got it ready to go. Tweet. Okay. All right, I've tweeted that, hashtag YOWConnected, and you can have a little look at that later on. I'll play the slideshow again. So this goes through general accessibility resources, and I could go on and on for hours about accessibility and inclusivity and in universal design. But these are resources that I find and that I usually share with my team on new projects that I join to help shift the mindset of accessibility away from disability or lawsuit-driven development and towards true universal and inclusive product design. Okay, so why mobile? Last year sometime, the number of internet users worldwide accessing the internet on mobile actually exceeded desktop internet users. And current stats show that it's evident that web is moving more and more towards mobile. You can look around you, you can't see a human not attached to a smart device. In Australia alone, there are around 25 unique mobile subscribers downloading a whopping, how much is that? 150,000 terabytes per month, and that is only going to go up. So it's around 1.9 gigabytes of data downloaded per mobile subscriber per month last year. Another reason why mobile is important is to cater for the next billion internet users. These are people who are joining us on the internet for the first time. Accessibility is now ingrained in technology giants such as Google and Facebook, and they are driven to be ready for the next billion users. Over the next few years, 1 billion people will join us from India, Indonesia, Brazil, China, And Google has dedicated a significant effort to studying and understanding the needs of this emerging market. Currently, only 40% of people living in the global south are connected to the internet. And meanwhile, 81% of us folks in the global north are online just about 24/7. So let's talk a little bit about what these next billion users look like. Well, they will likely have access to the internet for the first time on 4-inch screens on budget smartphones and with less than 512 megabytes of RAM. Their internet connection will be spotty, their data costs high, and most of the times their phones will be set to flight mode to get the most out of their battery life and their prepaid data deal. And they will definitely not have auto updates switched on. On top of that, the next billion users have an incredibly diverse lingual, physical, mental, social, and cultural needs compared to those that we've become accustomed to developing for ourselves. So how is mobile different to web? So unlike desktop computers, mobile devices follow us around in real life. We always have them on us in many different situations and many different scenarios. Websites and mobile apps no longer have our full attention, both mentally or physically. We could be walking through a busy mall trying to look up the best public transport to where we want to get to with one hand in a noisy environment. We could be outside in the sun trying to use an app or read what we need to do next. So before I move on to the coding, let's talk a little bit about what mobile assistive tech actually looks like, or assistive technology actually looks like. So on top of, so mobile assistive technology, Android and iPhone both come with built-in screen readers and compatibility with refreshing braille displays and switch controls. And actually, these being 3 different assistive technologies, they all actually just require the same kind of accessibility to whatever app you're developing. Your app needs to have components that are perceivable, focusable, understandable, and robust. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. And the last thing I want to talk about is how to build accessibility into your team. So from projects that I've seen, there is usually that one accessibility person. And that one accessibility person is usually the dev or the QA, and they are building all of these accessibility features into the app. And that makes them a very sad person. Because it becomes too much work. Too many decisions and too much cognitive load means that the developer estimates cards or features to take a very long time, and it inevitably gets descoped or the features are pumped out slower. I just want to write code. I don't want to think about all these things. So first step is to build accessibility into your culture and into your team. The first thing you can do is increase awareness and understanding amongst all your team members, not just that one accessibility person. So that could mean sharing brown bags and lunch and learns about accessibility, doing bug bashes, and having devs and QAs pair with all other members of the teams to show them what information they need and what it actually looks like to develop inclusive software. So let's try and bump all of those decisions and all of that information upstream. So a project or an iteration manager might ensure everyone in the team learns about accessibility in a sustainable way. They'll empower the team to understand and get excited about creating inclusive products. They'll be an advocate for the customer, whoever that might be, and they will try to understand the development effort required to better plan for that project. The second thing is to just build it with accessibility in mind at all times. So the next role is business and quality analysts. Sorry, this is agile team stuff. So what are business and quality analysts should understand what are the accessibility standards in legislations? What does accessibility mean in the context of this business and this product? and to make sure accessibility acceptance criteria are on every relevant story, and create checklists for critical user journeys. So a question I often get asked is, what is the bare minimum we need to do to make our software accessible so that we don't get sued? And that's the question I also ask myself quite often, because it does change depending on the company or the organization that you are. For example, government has very high standards in terms of accessibility. Your software and your products can't exclude anyone in the country. While for-profit organizations might want to work out how they can maximize their sales streams or try not to exclude customer segments in case they do have a lawsuit on their hands. And my advice is usually just do something. It doesn't have to be perfect end-to-end accessibility. Just have the critical path, critical business path, or the happy path work from end to end. And hopefully you have great CI, CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery practices so that if something does go wrong, that you can fix it quickly for that customer. On to the user experience designer. So the user experience, the XD will take care of user research and user testing and hopefully encourage this throughout the whole development process. They should focus a lot on color and contrast, especially now that the phone is something that everybody uses outside as well as indoors, unlike desktop computers. They need to design for touch screens. It's now a smaller amount of real estate. The buttons need to be bigger because you need to have a big target to hit while you're walking around and getting on with your life. And they also need to help decide on what cannot be seen. So as I mentioned before, developers usually have to make decisions about what the tab order is, because by the time the card gets to them, they may as well just think about it themselves and implement it. So the developer needs to pair with the XD so that they can understand what information they need to just supply to the developer to decide on things like, what should the screen reader say? What should the order of navigation be? And that will leave the developer to write the code. So on that note, we can get on to actually writing some code. So React Native accessibility. So after working a couple of months in React Native land, with the amazing leaps and bounds ahead that Apple and Google have made in terms of accessibility APIs, it's actually quite easy and really, really user-friendly with some gotchas. And that's what I want to share with you. So the best resource that you can look at is Facebook's accessibility docs. And actually 99% of the time, you'll only be using these two commands. So let's quickly step out to the app. Change my displays to mirror so I can see what's going on. Okay. So for those who don't know, this is kind of what it looks like to develop in React Native. How do I get rid of this? You usually have two emulators sitting there and your code in the background and your terminal running. And React Native is awesome where you can change the code and your app will update straight away. For example, Jerry's not here, so I'm going to delete that. And auto refresh, and Jerry's gone. You probably can't see that very well, so just please yell at me to zoom in when I forget to. Okay. So, how do we know that these are accessible? Well, there are some awesome tools that are actually built into Mac that can help you test. So let me make this one a little bit bigger. There we go. Can everyone see that? Yep. Sweet. Okay, so this looks fine, right? This app looks perfectly like it works. Doesn't do anything that exciting, sorry. Basically, I can scroll this list of people and their coffees. Declan, did I get your coffee right? Yeah, all right, iced coffee for Declan. Is Lyle Lamiro in here? okay, they're not my friends, no coffee for them. And I've got a modal in there just to throw in some fun. And so that seems like it's a perfectly accessible app. If we were to turn on the screen reader, which you can do by going Command F5.
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen and can be used to control the computer using only your keyboard.
Cool.
VoiceOver on simulator, iPhone 6, iOS 10314E8301 window. Scroll area has keyboard. AX heading, coffee run. You are currently on a AX heading.
Oh, the fun of demonstrating with screen readers. So let me just turn on.
F1 key button. You are currently on a button. To press this button, mouse set pose has new window. Mouse set pose has new window. Declan coffee ice Lyle coffee long black mirror tea F1 key button. You are currently on a button. AX heading coffee run.
So AX heading
you are
coffee
currently
run.
on a AX heading.
AX heading is actually a label that screen reader users know is accessibility heading.
Declan coffee ice Lyle coffee long black mirror tea black milk and honey.
Okay, I want to get to that plus button too. So I'm just pressing Control, Option, and arrow keys to navigate around. On the phone itself, you'd just be swiping left and right. Don't worry, you'll be trying this in a bit. And
Declan coffee ice AX Declan coffee ice Declan coffee.
So I can't get to that button. You press Control to shush it up a bit. Okay, so there is something wrong with the accessibility of this app. So I'm going to turn off the screen reader.
F, VoiceOver off.
And use another tool which is also built into the Mac called the Accessibility Inspector. And this is awesome because basically it's a visual screen reader. Let me zoom in a little bit. How do I? Yeah, there we go. So you can hover over your simulator and you can see in the Accessibility Inspector, in that quick look section there, it's what the screen reader will actually read out. So you can hover over things and you can see, oh, I've got this big chunk there that's inaccessible. And so if I get out of that, I can start to go back and have a look. No, I don't want to, thank you. I can start to use these React Native component properties to make those parts accessible. So this coffee run list is in coffeerun.js, and what I've got here, hopefully you can see that all right. What I've got here is actually a view wrapped around a flat list and the button. Ignore this modal for now. So I've got a view that says accessible equals true. So let me talk a little bit about what accessible equals true means. It's actually a bit confusing because it kind of means the opposite of what you're saying. So accessible equals true makes the children of that component inaccessible. It basically just grabs all the contents and all the labels of the children and just smushes them all together and reads them out. That's why it had everybody's names and everybody's coffee orders read out all at once. So views are actually not accessible true by default. So we can delete that and see what kind of difference that makes. Did I save? Yes, I saved. Okay. So if we turn the screen reader on again, actually I'll just turn on the Accessibility Inspector. And now hopefully we can see, oops, what am I doing? I can see my own screen. Great. We can now access everything inside of that view that was originally blocked off. And the order's a little bit weird. So we've kind of arrived at our next problem, which is, oh, this, it doesn't look like the screen reader is going to read out anything for this button, this add button. So I need to fix that one up. So that brings me to the next property, which is accessibility label. So if we go back to the code, and where did it go? go to the Add New Button component. So for those unfamiliar with React, it's basically componentized UI. So nice little bite-sized components that you can mix together, mash together with some state, and you get a nice working, an awesome app that works really, really well. And it keeps all your responsibilities separate, which is awesome. Okay, so let's have a look at this button. Alrighty, so I've got an icon called Add, and it's a button. On press, it's transparent. So let's see if I can add an accessibility label to that one, which is Add New Coffee Order, and save that one. Okay, so I turn on my accessibility inspector, and there we go, Add New Coffee Order. And so if you do stumble across this with a screen reader, you're going to be a little bit confused about what that element actually is, because the screen reader will usually read out straight after the label what type of component it is. So usually the screen reader will say Add New Coffee Order button. So this brings me to the last two parts of the accessibility API. Sorry, just watch me struggle with working through this Zoom thing. This brings me to the last two bits, which is adding accessibility traits. So you can add accessibility traits. Unfortunately, you still have to add both to the same element to support both iOS and Android. So I can add accessibility traits equals button and accessibility component type equals button to the code. Okay, save that. And with the accessibility inspector again, great, that's what I'm expecting. It'll read out Add New Coffee Order button. Okay, so if we get out of that one. Okay, so that's that's the basic development process, just to check if everything is visible to the accessibility APIs and ultimately visible to assistive technology. So if I go back to my slides. Oh, one last thing I do want to show you while I'm in develop live demo land is something really, really cool that comes with Android that helps you with your color contrast and all your other accessibility auditing needs, which is called the Accessibility Scanner. So the Accessibility Scanner, if I just turn, it's an APK that you can install on Android, and it appears in the accessibility menu in settings. So if you turn that on, what it does is it plonks a big big blue tick in the middle of the screen. And if I try and open that app again, wherever it went, there it is. Press on the tick, and what it does, it'll take a screenshot of your app, hopefully, go, like that. And it'll point out what is wrong, what is potentially wrong with it. So I can click on this suggestion that it's making, and it says that multiple items have the same description. So it's suggesting that, oh, if you have multiple items on the screen, the person might get a bit lost when they're navigating through it if they have the same name. So you should probably have unique descriptions for your elements. It does a whole heap of other cool stuff as well, like button size, color contrast, and everything like that, and actually explains to you how to get it right, which is awesome. Okay, alrighty. I'm going to escape from the dangerous lands of live demo.
Is there an equivalent for iOS for that scanning?
Not that I've seen, yeah. So it's good to have both so that you can kind of check at the same time. But if you do find one, let me know. Okay. Good, good. Awesome. Now, I do have some extended stuff around why you might not want to use a button, and what then you need to add accessibility traits to that, but I have that in another Medium article of basically explaining everything about accessibility that I've shown here, plus some more. So I will tweet that in a bit. I'm getting better at Twitter. Okay, so the one thing I do want to share in person is gotchas. So these are things that really cause me to pull my hair out while doing React Native development and trying to make sure that it's an inclusive app. So all touchable components are accessible equals true by default. So it means it gobbles up all the contents of the children elements inside. For example, if you have a carousel, which has modals that are touchable elements that you scroll through. One of the libraries that we picked had a touchable element just encompassing the whole modal, and that means that nothing inside it was accessible. It was just a big blob of stuff that it was reading out. So that's something to watch out for when you're creating custom components. Just make sure you set touchable components to accessible equals false if you need to access stuff on the inside. Some React Native libraries don't expose accessibility properties, and we found that out the hard way with some custom pickers. And that means that we had to fork the library and add the accessibility attributes ourselves. It was literally a 1-2 line change. And then still need to create that PR to merge it back in. I haven't done that yet. So, but if you see that anywhere, please do fork it, create a PR, and help make the component better. It's still a very, very new community, which is awesome and horrifying at the same time. And things that work fine in iOS often break horribly in Android. I had to watch a Chain React conference, a React Native conference talk to realize that. I was going, why is everything broken in Android all the time and spending all... So develop Android first and you'll be okay, because it will work in iOS. Okay. If you run into any weirdness while doing React Native development, check the GitHub issues page first. So this is a stable version of React Native that crashes on a fresh project. Luckily, I found that 10 minutes after I was going, what is going on? I just want to run a new app. And this is probably by far my favorite quote about React Native. React Native is the most extreme love-hate relationship that I have. And that was on that same bug report. Yeah, so, okay. To do, I have to tweet this link. So everything that I just said and more is going to be in a link I'm about to tweet. Really quick. And then I have an exercise for the room to do. How do I get out of this? I've lost my mouse. If I don't do it now, I'll never do it. I'm terrible at sharing resources. Okay, it's tweeted. All right. Okay, so a bit of a recap. So building accessibility in starts with culture, increase awareness and understanding with your team. Build it with accessibility in mind, makes a better experience for everyone. And last but not least, test with real users, because you will be surprised. Okay, so practice time. Time to turn on your screen reader. Everybody get your phone out, it's not rude. This is my favorite iPhone voiceover, Google automatic search. How do I disable voiceover? How do I turn off voiceover? So how to turn voiceover on and off. So if you don't mind, what I want to get you in the practice of is knowing how to turn it on and also turning on the accessibility shortcut and just testing out your favorite app. It's going to get a bit noisy in this room, which is fine. I have nothing else interesting to say from now on. But I really, really want to get everyone in the habit of using this, because actually I do use voiceover because I get horribly, horribly bus sick when I ride the bus to work. But I also do want to read all the articles that I have saved ready to go. So I do use voiceover to read out the articles. So it's like my own mini radio station or podcast. Okay, now that you've all turned it on, this is how you actually use it. So you can drag your finger around the screen and it'll read out whatever is under your finger. And to kind of navigate and traverse, you can swipe left or right to go to the next item. And to activate, or basically to tap on that item, you can double tap whatever is selected at the moment. And so if you pick your favorite app, see how far you can get to doing the happy path of what you usually use it for. I can hazard a guess that you won't get very far. And there you go if you want to know how to turn it off again. So swipe left and right. So you can press the home button and then swipe left and right till you get to settings. And then you can swipe left and right till you get to general accessibility and you can turn it off. I have shortcuts turned on my iPhone so that I can triple tap the home button to turn it off. But now you know. So don't be scared of turning it on out of fear of not being able to turn it off again. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. I'm happy to help you turn it off, or turn to the person next to you and get them to help you. Or just turn your phone off.
I just show you, like you can't actually see if you, the turn off button isn't actually accessible.
So this is in the talkback tutorial itself.
Yes.
Great.
See, they've got everything else. I just thought I'd show you that.
That's hilarious.
That's really sad.
Oh my goodness. You should tweet that. So I think if you do want to turn it off,
Yes.
you can press home.
Yeah.
And then you can navigate through here until you get to settings. Or you can cheat and put your hand over. How do I? That one.
Oh, but yeah. So now, because normally on Android you normally like swipe down to go to settings. So that's why I don't have a shortcut for it on my home screen. Oh my goodness, that's going to take. Because it'll be on one of the last ones because it's S.
Yeah, that's true. We can search apps.
Oh, that's better. But do you have to double tap? Oh no, you don't have to double tap. Oh,
Oops. Oopsie daisies.
that's right. All right, I think I can do it. That's right. I think I can do it now. So I need to.
So if you
I
go,
go to home. And
then go
I'll
there.
hold it down. Oops.
Hold it down till it selects it. Yep.
Oh, and then double tap it.
Yeah. Double tap.
Ah, okay.
And then select that and double tap.
And then
And then there you go. There.
and then double tap.
Okay, anyone else need a hand?
I can see why you're not
I haven't done that in such a big crowd before, so that was an interesting experiment.